Lessons from Books, Apocalypse Never by Michael Shellenberger, Why Environmental Alarmism Hurts Us All. So this is a very balanced look from an environmentalist, but not an alarmist. Interesting book, a lot of great examples of what really is going on and maybe some best practices moving forward, but definitely a balanced anti-alarmist look at the environment. First of all, I can't believe I have to say this, but of course I have to say this. I'm not in favor of pollution. I think we should help and save the earth in some way, shape, or form, but I am definitely not pro-pollution. Can't believe I have to say that, but this is the way that it is. So there's this idea or belief, and most of this is taken from Shellenberger's book. About 80% of this video would be from Shellenberger's video. The idea that the tropical rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, is the Earth's lungs. All of our oxygen comes from the Amazon rainforest. You were probably taught that incorrectly in elementary school. You've probably heard this again, TV, in the media, from various celebrities or politicians. The reality is it's not really true. And so in the fall of 2019, people were freaking out because there were fires in the Amazon rainforest. And if that's our lungs, if that's where all of our oxygen comes from, then we're all going to die. Well, good news is it's not the lungs of the earth. Not true. Your fourth grade science teacher was wrong. The celebrity on Twitter or Instagram that told you this, they were wrong. And I mean, you can kind of understand because they're a celebrity on Instagram. They're not a scientist. Why are you believing them? The amount of oxygen that's produced by the Amazon rainforest is consumed by the Amazon rainforest. Yes, the Amazon rainforest creates a lot of oxygen, but it also breathes back in all of that oxygen. The Amazon plants consume 60% of the oxygen during respiration. 60% of the oxygen that the Amazon creates, it then consumes. You're like, no. That's yeah, I know that you remember photosynthesis. You remember your sixth grade science lesson where plants create oxygen, and then you turned your brain off and did not pay attention to the next lesson in which they explain cellular respiration, in which that plants and animals then use oxygen along with glucose to produce energy. So congratulations, you remembered one lesson from science. The problem is we really needed you to remember two. That second one, pretty important. So the plants are also using the oxygen that they're creating. It's the way that this works. The other 40% is consumed by microbes. So it's a net gain of zero. It is not the lungs of the earth. The Amazon rainforest is not breathing in all the carbon dioxide and spitting out all the oxygen so that we live. Not true. Yes, it's bad that the Amazon was on fire. But when celebrities came on and said, this is bad because we're not going to be able to breathe anymore. And when politicians who have actual political power to do things are telling you things that are not scientifically true. When politicians are saying that, yeah, all of our oxygen is going to go. No. That's not true whatsoever. That's a problem. That's the problem with environmental alarmists. They may take some truth, and sometimes not even any truth at all, but then exaggerate it to scare people, to push policies, and then you follow these policies, and then you go down this path, and then you realize, wait a second, the reason we started down this path, there was no reason to come down this dangerous path. We didn't need to go this way. It was all based on lies and exaggerations. Yeah, that's a problem, and that's where we go, and that's what Shellenberger's talking about. It's, hey, there's things that we can do, but what we do, we should not follow a path that has been driven or has been created on lies, on exaggerations, on false information. But obviously, listen to scientists. Don't get your information from politicians and celebrities. Their heart's probably in the right place. But we're not talking about heart. We're talking about science. This is supposed to be about science, not about feelings and emotion. I know you can care about the earth, but in crafting policies to help save the earth or finding out a plan, let's make the plan based on, well, what's really the facts, not on what you are dreaming up in your ideological fantasies. All right, let's talk about ivory. So elephant ivory was used to make piano keys. So you kill the elephant, you take the ivory, you make piano keys also for cue balls. The substance that was used for cue balls was elephant ivory. And so for the longest time, Human beings nearly killed all the elephants so that we could get the ivory, so that we can make our little trinkets, our nice little things. That's a problem. Well, yeah, it's a problem for the elephants, but also once you kill all the elephants, no more cue balls. What are we going to do if we don't have any more cue balls? No more pianos. And I mean, that's kind of a sad thing to not have pianos anymore, but it's a little bit more sad to kill all of the elephants. So you're probably thinking, well, we didn't do that. We saved the elephants. All right, well, who's we? Because you probably think we is the government. You probably think we are environmental activists that saved the elephants. That's not the case. The we was we, the market. And you're probably saying, no, capitalism's evil. Money, greed, it's evil. How could that possibly save the elephants? It was definitely the government with laws. It was definitely activists with pushing change that saved the elephants. It was not. It was that greedy, dirty capitalist market that you despise that saved the elephants. Here was the problem that happened. Because they had killed all the elephants, the ivory was becoming scarce. And so there was a low supply of ivory. And we all know as scarcity occurs or as supply goes down, price goes up. And it became too expensive for the manufacturers to continue to make piano keys, to continue to make pool cues. There's a famous example of a guy who said, I'll give $10,000 to anyone who can find an alternative to this problem. We're running out of elephants to kill. We're running out of elephants to kill. We're running out of ivory. And when we don't have ivory, there's no more pianos. There's no more pool cues. There's no more a bunch of other things. We've got to solve this problem. We, the market, have to solve this problem. We, the manufacturers, we, the producers, we, the consumers, not we, the government, not we, the activists. The market sees a problem and decides to fix the problem. Not because they love the elephants. Never because it's about emotions and feelings. It's about money, folks. And so the scientist says, well, I can study frog digestion. And don't ask me why that's the first thing that popped in my head. It's the first thing that popped in my head. He could study frog digestion, or this scientist could spend his time coming up with an alternative to ivory. And if you want to imagine, well, he's doing this because he wants to save the elephants, fine. Compartmentalize that and think that the scientists are doing it to save the elephants. Or you can be real and say he's going to do this because he's going to make a lot of money. There's an incentive, not just the $10,000 that was guaranteed if you can find an alternative, the money that's going to be made via this alternative. You'll get rich. What do you think motivates human beings? What do you think motivates scientists? No, scientists are a different breed. They are morally superior and they're motivated by wisdom. And come on, they got bills to pay. They got to put their kids through college. They want a nice car. They want a 2-car garage. How do you think they're going to pay for that? Frog digestion? Think again. So what they'll discover is they can actually use cotton fibers to make cue balls or make plastic. And scientists weren't doing this until there was a problem. The market wasn't doing this until there was a problem. And when the problem came up, it wasn't the government that invented plastic. It wasn't the activists that invented plastic. It was the scientists responding to the market that created plastic. And guess what? You save the elephants. You turn the cotton into plastic. We no longer have to kill the elephants. The elephants are still here today. It wasn't the government. It wasn't the activists. It wasn't the environmental alarmists. It was the market that said it's getting too expensive to turn ivory into piano keys. It's getting too expensive to make pool cues. We've got to figure this out. We, the market, have to figure this out. And they did figure it out, not with the help of the government, not with the help of the activists. If it was up to the government, if it was up to the environmental alarmist activists, the elephants would be dead. But thank goodness for those greedy capitalists, because we saved the elephants, and the elephants can sing and dance. And guess what? The elephants will remember this, because elephants don't forget. I was going to do a GIF for that, but I didn't. All right, switch a little bit here, but we're not really switching at all. That's a trick. So I'll get back to that. We probably have seen this YouTube video where and again, this is from Michael Shellenberger's Apocalypse Never. You remember the video on YouTube of, the straw is in the nose of the turtle. It's terrible. It's tough to see. Every time you have one of those 6-pack rings with the plastic, you chop it up because you're afraid that it's going to go on a dolphin's snout or whatever, and it's going to go in the ocean and kill a bunch of things. Yeah, it's horrible. It's terrible. It's awful. It's not good. And the video is terrifying. And so the solution to most people is, we got to get rid of the straws. Whoa. Hold on. We got to get rid of the straws. That's your immediate response. I get it. I understand your emotion. I understand your feelings, but let's look at the facts. So we do know that the fact that this straw got in this elephant's nose, it's cringy, tough to watch. But we also know that elephant ivory was turned into kind of an early form of plastic. That's how they make cue balls. They used the ivory to make piano keys, not necessarily plastic, but some form of plastic. Had a plasticity to it. Well, also turtle shells, sea turtle shells, are based on the keratin in the shell, and it's not really a shell, it's its skeleton, but based on that, they could use the turtle shell, which they would sometimes cut off while the turtle was alive. Sometimes they would boil the turtle alive. Some pretty terrible stuff. You think a straw in the nose is bad? Well, what they used to do to rip these turtle shells so that they could use the keratin to make early forms of plastic, just like they were making early piano keys. And I'm not going to go into exactly the products that they were made from these tortoise shells. You can check out his book. It's interesting. What the actual plasticity is used for in Japan in particular. We're not going to say that in this video. We'll keep it PC. Or at least PG, not PC, PG. So we know that elephants, we were using their ivory. We were also using the turtles for early versions of plastic. And then science invents plastic. And so now we no longer need to kill the turtles. There's no longer a turtle genocide like there's no longer an elephant genocide. We save the turtles. Who's we? The scientists, not the government, not the environmental alarmists. It was the scientists responding to market demands, finding an alternative. Sure, maybe some of them are like, well, I really wanted to save the turtles. I don't know about you. Okay, that's cool. But the rest of us were trying to make money. The invention of plastic saves the turtles. So, but the invention of plastic leads to the, oh no. So which is it going to be? If we get rid of the plastics, like you just said earlier, get rid of the straws. Okay, well, where are we going to get our plastic from? Where did we get our plastic before when we didn't have plastics? Yeah, we killed the turtles. So, the invention of plastic saved the turtles, but it did lead to this. And you're probably saying, what do we do? That's right. This is the moment where we cue up the Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. You cannot have it both ways. You can't have happy turtles without straws in their nose and have plastics. It's one or the other. You cannot live in a world where, yes, we're enjoying all the plastics and also the turtles are never going to have straws in their nose. There's no solution. There are trade-offs. Which trade-off do you want? Do you want a world without plastics, or do you want a world with happy turtles? Look at the trade-offs. What would you decide? Ultimately, I think you're going to decide the plastic. Well, you've chosen wisely. If you followed me and said, like, we got to go with the plastic, we'll try to reduce as much as we can. We're going to have to deal with occasionally a turtle's going to get a straw up its nose, but we got to stick with the plastics because there's a bunch of other reasons, the trade-offs. So that's my wise choice. And I'm willing to deal with those trade-offs. Now, some people are impractical. Some people are ideological. Some people, usually on the left side, will call it not necessarily the left, but the unconstrained vision, those that suffer from, or at least choose to believe in the unconstrained vision, they do not accept this concept. They do not accept that there are no solutions. They do not accept that there are only trade-offs. They believe they can solve problems. And California is a perfect example. You might remember this movie. If you don't, too bad. I feel sorry for you that you don't know where this GIF or GIF comes from. So California suffers from the unconstrained vision, or they choose to believe in the unconstrained vision. They believe that they can have solutions. And one of their solutions was, guess what? We'll just ban plastic. We can ban it. There are no trade-offs. There are solutions, according to them. Okay, well, so all right, well, let's play this out. Let's see how this works. So you're going to get rid of plastic bags. People are still going to the grocery. People are still taking things home. So they have to use paper bags or mesh bags or cotton bags, or they have to use a bag of some sort because you can't go home with your groceries just juggling them. You have to carry them in something. Well, guess what? When you make paper bags or cotton bags or whatever type of bag it is you make, you use more energy. You burn more power in creating these. You'd have to use these paper bags 43 times to have less of an impact on the environment. Good job, California. You ban plastic bags. Everybody's got to use paper bags, which are less helpful for the environment. Unless, of course, everyone's using that paper bag 43 times. You're not using a paper bag 43 times. Get out of here. You're not. That's what happens when you think you're going to find solutions. There are only trade-offs. trade-offs. All right, great. We don't have plastic bags floating in the ocean. Cool. What was the trade-off? Well, now we're going to burn more energy by doing paper bags. You didn't come up with a solution. There was a trade-off. This is what you chose. Is this better for the environment? Probably not. And it's definitely probably not, because when you figure out the plastic bags that you're keeping from the ocean only make up 0.8% of the ocean waste. So great. So 0.8% of the ocean waste. All right, we got that taken care of, but we're just going to consume a bunch more energy now with the paper bags. Not to mention people don't really like paper bags. Trade-offs. This is the key philosophy of the constrained vision. The unconstrained vision believe they can solve every problem. They'll just figure everything out. That's just not the way that it works, people. All right, well, what about plastic bottles? Forget the plastic bags. We can at least get rid of the plastic bottles. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. So you switch from the plastic bottle to the glass bottle. Well, it's 170 to 250% more energy is used to make this bottle, and then 200 to 40%, 400% more carbon is emitted through the manufacturing process. So there's your trade-off. Great. You got rid of the plastic bottles. You're now using glass bottles, but you're burning more energy, which is not good for the environment. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. We kind of alluded to this. Yes, this is a terrible sight. We've got all this plastic in the ocean. We probably should do something about it. It's a concern. Eventually, these polystyrene, like styrofoam. Polystyrene break down into microplastics. So these bigger plastics eventually in the ocean break down into microplastics, whatever. Plastic's plastic, big, small, it's a lot of plastic that's into the ocean. Well, it's not whatever, because as it breaks down into smaller pieces, it's going to continue to break down. And when scientists went out and studied the plastics in the ocean, they found out, like, whoa, this is not that bad. This is, by the number, it's 100 times. They found out 100 times less plastic than they expected. So they expected to find all this plastic, and they found 100% less plastic than they expected. So they're like, well, where did it all go? There should be a bunch of plastic in the ocean. This should be really bad, but it's not. So what's going on? So they looked at it, and they looked at these microplastics and trying to figure out, well, what's going on? And they came up with the conclusion. Now, it hasn't completely been proven yet, but this is where they're leading, that the sun is breaking down these plastics in the ocean. The environmental alarmist activists are going to tell you it's going to take thousands of years of this plastic in the ocean. In reality, scientists say that's about a decade. In about a decade, the plastic breaks down. Thousands? A decade. Environmental alarmists scaring you into actions down a path that you probably don't need to go down. And the example that's in the book by Shellenberger is, by the scientists explain this. They say, hey, look at your lawn furniture, look at playground equipment, look at park benches that are made of plastics that sit out in the sun every day, and look and see how they deteriorate. Now imagine what would happen to small, tiny little plastics getting hit by the sun every single day. Of course, it's being broken down into base carbon, which then goes up in the atmosphere. Oh, well, that carbon's bad. Yeah, but I mean, still, it's not this floating reef of toxicity. It's breaking down. It's coming back part of nature, right? And so the carbon then will get consumed by the plants, in theory. So the sun's breaking it down is the point. It's not going to sit there for 1,000 years. That plastic bottle that you're drinking out of right now, that you feel infinite guilt about, when you're drinking, like, oh no, this plastic bottle's going to end up in the ocean. Well, yeah, but in 10 years it'll be gone. Sure, it would be great for it to be better. It would be great for us to find another way, but there is no reason for you to cry tears over your plastic bottle. We're doing all right. We're doing a lot better than we can. So what are some of the big takeaways here? Well, obviously, we can reduce and reuse and do things better. But one thing that I want to caution with some of these videos, please don't become a conspiracy theorist. It's okay to be skeptical. And it's okay to read this book and to develop a sense of skepticism and to want to understand truth and fact and be objective. But don't go off the deep end. Don't go way out there on a limb. Balance it out. So, and please, watching these videos, don't become a conspiracy theorist. And let me give you an example. So we don't want to become conspiracy theorists, but we still want to be skeptical to a certain degree. I mean, you look at this 1989 article, which Shellenberger will mention. UN predicts disaster if global warming is not checked. That was in 1989. They said we had 10 years. In 1989, the United Nations said we had 10 years. So it's okay to be skeptical, right? You want to be skeptical when you read these things because clearly they missed that. By my calculations, we all should have been dead about 20 years ago, but we're still here and I'm still recording these videos somehow. How did that happen? So they were wrong. So when you read or when you're studying, it's okay to be skeptical. Don't become a conspiracy theorist, but don't do this. But you should be skeptical to a degree. You don't want to be stupid. There's too many people that just don't know and just believe whatever they're told. And I guess I can call people stupid as long as the president did. I was going to use a dunce cap thing, but that offends people. So I went with this because I don't think I can get away with it because it's the president saying people are stupid. And I think you can kind of get away with it too if you've got like an animal in a dunce cap. That's kind of appropriate as well. It's not a human being. But don't be stupid. A lot of stupid people read this stuff. Oh, it's all over. And they just don't understand the science. They don't understand how to find different opinions. There's are different objective observations. They just, all right, this is what the media told me. We're all going to die. So yeah, there's going to be dumb people. Don't be dumb. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. Don't be naive. Don't be naive with good intentions. That's the other problem. So we've got skeptics. That's probably where you want to be. You don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. You don't want to be dumb when trying to understand the environment. And you also don't want to be this naive, save the world, well-intended person. But when you have these good intentions, you often trust people too much. You believe in people too much. You get your beauty pageant. I want world peace. Just too naive. And you can get used. And here you get used by them. We've also got the people that are probably just evil who are taking advantage of this and are using this as a giant power grab. That's really kind of the big picture of what we're looking at when we look at a lot of environmental stuff. It's okay to be skeptic. Don't be a conspiracy theorist, but don't be stupid and ignorant. You don't want to be naive and well-intended, and you don't want to be the evil people that are usurping power here. So scientists have got us pretty much got it under control. Listen to the scientists. Don't be conspiracy theorist, but also don't fall for anything because you got to save the earth. The bigger thing is what's the difference between people that are stupid and people who are taking over the earth? Some people just don't know the facts. Some people don't know it's breaking down in 10 years. Some people just don't know. It's not that they're stupid, they're just not informed. Some people don't know that the Amazon's not really the lungs of the earth. Some people don't know the history of plastic, and that's okay. But then there's other people who do know and are misleading people and taking advantage of these situations. You can check out Planet of Humans. It's free on YouTube. Really good video that will show you kind of the darker side of what's going on. The darker side that's misleading the naive, that's also taking advantage of the uninformed or the dumb people. Let's look at an example, a famous example of either being dumb, being naive, being misled, whichever way you want to look at it. So Ms. Cortez is going to say that the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. So where did we hear this before? 1989, you got 10 years and the world's going to end. Well, it didn't end. Here she is again repeating this in 2019. We got 12 years or it's going to end. And she says this is a part of the IPCC's report. 12 years. I'm not making this up. And she says this as earnestly as possible in front of a giant group in a conference or whatever you want to say. It was an assembly. She's on stage and she says this as earnestly as one could. You can see in her face she truly believes it, that she thinks this is a serious issue. 12 years, we're all going to die. Well, okay. Well, let's look at the IPCC report and see what did they really say. What did this panel actually say about climate change? Do we have 12 years left to live? So it says by 2100 or 2100, the economy will be 600% larger. I thought we were all going to die in 12 years. By her calculations, 2030, we're all dead. By their calculations, 2100, we're all alive and doing better. And her calculations were based on their calculations according to her. She said that they said, but they said that, what? That's not, well, I don't care if you won't accept this. This is what they said. They said, if we don't do anything for 12 years, she's like, yeah, get to it. This is where you say that the world's going to end, right? This is where you say in 12 years, we're all going to die. If we don't do anything in 12 years, this is going to be 44% more expensive. We're not all going to die. Not going to happen. If we don't act now, if we wait until 2030 to act, if we wait 12 years, this is where 12 years comes in, it's just going to be a little bit more expensive. Well, I don't care. That's your opinion, man, as the dude would say. But the IPCC is saying 12 years, we're not going to die. It's just going to be more expensive. So it's a lot like a credit card bill. You can pay now, and it's going to be cheaper. So we can address climate change now and today, and we can take the hit today, and we'll probably save money over the long run. We can go down that path right now, and it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a shock to the system, but overall it'll be cheaper. Or we can pay later, but it's going to be more expensive. If we wait 12 years, it's just going to be more expensive. The world's not going to end. So plan A or plan B. Now, most people say, just do the plan A, take your medicine, deal with it, get it over with. Okay, but there is a reason why you might choose plan B. You don't got the money to pay for this. Like a lot of people, it's not like they want to cheat the credit card companies. Like, I can't pay my bill right now. Sure, plan A sounds like the best plan in the long run. It sounds responsible, but I ain't got the money. Another reason to choose plan B is a little thing called innovation. Why does innovation matter? Well, if we pay later, it's supposed to be more expensive. According to the IPCC, if we pay later, it might be as high as 44%. It might be. But there's also the chance that innovation and inventions will solve the problem. We know that innovation, and we've seen this during our lifetime, as we invent new things and new machinery and new equipment, and as processors become faster, innovation reduces costs. And AOC, Bernie Sanders, most of the people on the side of the green people will say, look, all this technology is getting better. Solar power is getting better every day. Wind power is getting better every day. Solar power is water power is getting better every day. And it's going to lower the cost. Okay, well, then if this stuff's getting better, if innovation's happening, it's going to be cheaper down the road. So let's pay later. If your renewables really work, if you truly believe in renewable energy, if you are left, green, progressive, then you believe in renewables, and you believe that they are the answer, and you believe they're going to lower the cost. So then why pay now? Why not wait for that technology to come in? We'll pay later, and it'll still be cheap. That's why you pick plan B, unless, of course, you don't believe in renewables. If you don't think renewables work, if you don't think solar is going to get better, if you don't think wind power is going to get better, if you don't believe that these things are working, then yeah, it would make sense to pay now, because in the long run, it's going to be cheaper. But that would require the Green Party, the left-wing progressives, the Social Democrats to admit that, well, these things aren't going to work. Because if these things are going to work, then there's no reason in acting within the next 12 years. There's no reason to act right now. You would wait until it gets cheaper to address the problem. Why address the problem when it's really expensive? Why not address the problem when it's cheaper? And we pretty much know that it might not be renewables that do it. It's probably going to be nuclear, but there's going to be a new alternative energy that is going to lower costs, and then that's when you can address the climate change. But that's not progressive. Look, according to you, if you believe in this stuff, then you got to go plan B. So her response when she gets called out, and like they say, well, actually, the IPCC says, and so they correct her. And instead of her saying, I was wrong, which is what normal, responsible, respectful people do, is admit when they've made a mistake. Instead, she pulled the old, I was just joking, got it. Like, was it a joke? You were just joking with us? So that crowd that you were speaking to solemnly and earnestly, and when you said that with a straight, sour, or even face that the world's going to die in 12 years, it was actually a joke? It was a long con? It was all just a joke? You were playing a joke on people? Well, that's not really appropriate, is it? Is that appropriate? If the world is in dire straits, if this is one of the biggest moments in the history of mankind, if this is a cataclysmic event, should you be joking about it? Is it serious? Is it a serious problem? Should we joke about serious situations? I guess not. I guess we can joke about everything. Kind of what I do. Also, by saying that, you're misleading and scaring people. You're misleading and scaring ignorant people. You're misleading and scaring naive, good-intentioned people. Why would you do that? Why would you mislead? Well, why would you mislead people? But why would you mislead the most vulnerable people? Why would you scare the most vulnerable people? And then last, when you do that, you're doing the bidding of the elites and the ruling class. You're allowing them to usurp power by lying and tricking. That's what most of this is. There's going to be giant dynamic shifts in power when we pass these large bills, and ginormous laws are going to be major power shifts from one group to the other. People know that. People are trying to get in on that. And you are helping that happen. And it's one thing to help this giant shift of power happen, but it's another thing to do it deceitfully. Do so by misleading people, to shift this power from group A to group B by scaring people. Unless, of course, well, it's just a giant joke. Okay, well, you might be joking, but there is a giant power shift that's going to happen here. Bob Murphy is someone that I would encourage you to check out his YouTube videos or any of his writings. He kind of explores some objective facts beyond what Michael Shellenberger does in Apocalypse Never. And because we don't want to end with the picture of Bob Murphy, we'll go with AOC dancing and end on a happy note. What's wrong with watching a little dancing, having some fun, living our life, and not worrying about what the world's going to look like in 12 years? Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's just going to cost us a little bit more money. This is how you get the clicks, folks. So, Apocalypse Never, Michael Shellenberger, Why Environmental Alarmists Hurt Us All. Check it out. Interesting book. Went long. Trying to stop the video, but the video is not wanting to cooperate. Stop video.